Hi there, this is John at Mackworth Vintage ATVs. Thanks for tuning in as I take a quick trip around this 1985 ATC70, the last year they were made. Give you a little bit of history on its background and some of the work I've done to it. So hope you stick around. So as I said, this little guy came to me about 1 year ago. I found it locally and, well, relatively locally in New Hampshire, owned by the original family. And through some conversations with them, I learned some pretty funny stories, and they had some other three-wheelers at the time as well, a 200M and I believe maybe a 200S or a Big Red now. I can't remember. It's been a little while. But they had the certificate of origin and a few other things accompanying it. It retained its original registration decals, which I did carefully remove and preserve so they can be kept with the bike. The manual and brochure are with it. It is an original bike in terms of its parts. I restored some things on it, such as the wheels. They had a little bit of surface rust, at least a few of them did, enough that drew your attention to it, and I wanted to correct that. The muffler, exhaust system, heat shield, that was also in need of a little attention. The fenders had some scrapes and marks on them, and they still do have a little, but I restored those to bring them back to what they are now. Applied some blue line decals to the back. And for anybody in need of decals, that is my go-to. They essentially you can't tell the difference between them and OEM, NOS for the most part. He does a great job. This is an original 70 in terms of its tank, seat, everything here is original. I either just lightly restored it or reconditioned it some. That's the original dealer decal that was stuck to it back in 1985, the White Mountain Honda Kawasaki in Littleton, New Hampshire. So if anybody remembers that, give me some information on it if you could, either through Facebook or here on YouTube in the comments. I try to find the most desirable three-wheelers that exist, and part of that desire when I buy one, is probably the case for many of you, is also the ownership history. And if you can learn a little bit about the history of it, or if you're lucky enough to find the original owner that can give you the whole story, it really adds a lot of appeal to a bike for me. This still wears its original Oats tires, and they're in remarkably good shape for the age. I have seen no dry cracking or any issues with them in terms of holding air. The gas tank is super clean, inside and out. The muffler on these, if you use them at all, they become almost a part of the skid plate system, and they take a little bit of a beating. So I worked on that, reconditioned it, restored it, powder coated the heat shield, and tried to correct that paint and sheen right back to what it would look like from the factory. OEM hardware. It did have a little rub on the inside of the rear portion of that front fender against the acorn nuts on the motor, which pretty tough to find an ATC70 without that. This one has a a bend in the front fender. Somebody obviously, at some point in that family's time, hit something. That hang tag did not come with it. I got lucky enough a year or two ago and found about a dozen of those on eBay, new old stock throttle hang tags for these. So I put one on one whenever I own one. So there you have it. Honda's last ATC70 from 1985. Quite an icon, really. A lot of good memories for a lot of people out there. That's probably what you started on. And hope you enjoyed the walk around. I've got an upcoming project. I'm currently working on it, checking off some details with it. It's an old desert racer. And for some of you folks out there that were, living in the era of the early 80s, three-wheeler racing, this one is quite an icon. It's got a long list of old school parts, and some of them I haven't even seen on a three-wheeler before, but I've seen them in the old ads. So I'm excited to be able to share that out, probably next year, quite frankly, maybe early next year. But thanks for tuning in for this one, and we'll see you next time.